Today we expose the reality behind Britain's butter industry, the truth hidden beneath the golden foil and pastoral packaging. The secrets corporations pray you'll never discover while you're rushing down the dairy aisle, trusting that what says butter on the label actually is butter. For generations, British families believed they knew what butter was. Cream from cows, churned until thick, salted for flavor, wrapped in foil and placed on the table. Simple, honest, real. The kind of food your great-grandmother would recognize without hesitation. But walk into any supermarket today and try to find actual butter. Not spreads, not blends, not butter-style products. Just butter. And you'll discover something unsettling. The majority of what's labeled as butter, what's positioned in the butter section, what's marketed with creamy pastoral imagery, isn't butter at all. It's been diluted, engineered, stretched with oils, and reformulated so many times that the original product has become almost unrecognizable. They told us seed oils were the future, that natural dairy was dangerous, that margarine would save our hearts while butter would clog our arteries. The medical establishment endorsed it, the media amplified it, and for half a century we believed every word. Fast forward to today, and heart disease hasn't declined. It's still the #1 killer in Britain. Obesity hasn't improved, it's accelerated. And the very product they demonized, real butter made from real cream, was never the villain. It was just harder to mass produce, less profitable, more expensive to manufacture at scale. So they replaced it. Quietly, gradually, year by year, reformulation by reformulation. They kept the butter branding, the traditional imagery, the comforting associations. But they gutted the actual product and replaced it with something cheaper, more shelf-stable, more profitable. And they're counting on you never reading the small print. 1. Clover. The spread that convinced an entire generation it was choosing wisely. The yellow tub that promised all the taste of butter with none of the guilt. The brand that positioned itself as the sensible middle ground between margarine and dairy. Clover has been in British kitchens since the 1970s, marketed as a modern solution to an old problem. Butter was expensive, hard to spread, supposedly unhealthy. Clover offered convenience, affordability, and the reassurance that you were making a better choice for your family's health. But here's what Clover never told you in their advertising. What they never highlighted in those wholesome family commercials. What remains hidden in the small print most shoppers never bother to read. Clover isn't butter. It's not even close. It's a vegetable oil spread with added buttermilk to create that buttery flavor. The main ingredient isn't cream, it's rapeseed oil. The same seed oil that's in your crisps, your ready meals, your takeaway fries. The same oil that wasn't part of human diets until industrial processing made it cheap enough to manufacture at scale. Look at the ingredient list. Vegetable oils, including rapeseed oil, palm oil, water, buttermilk, salt, emulsifiers, E471, E322, preservatives, acidity regulators, coloring to get that butter yellow shade consumers expect, flavoring to mimic the taste of real dairy. This isn't dairy that's been churned. This is oil that's been engineered, emulsified, stabilized, colored, flavored, turned into something that looks and spreads like butter, but fundamentally isn't. And for decades, this was sold as the healthy choice, the heart-friendly option, the progressive alternative to old-fashioned butter. They wrapped it in health messaging so convincing that people genuinely believed they were protecting their families by choosing Clover over real butter. But the science that supported that message? Much of it was funded by the very industries profiting from seed oil sales. The studies that demonized saturated fat and promoted polyunsaturated oils? Often backed by vegetable oil manufacturers. The dietary guidelines that shaped British eating habits for 50 years. Heavily influenced by corporate interests. And now, half a century later, we're sicker than ever. Heart disease rates haven't improved despite everyone switching from butter to spreads. Obesity has exploded. Metabolic disorders are endemic. And people are finally starting to ask the question Clover hoped they never would. What if we were lied to? What if natural butter wasn't the enemy? What if replacing it with industrial seed oils wasn't the solution? What if clover and products like it were never about health at all, but about profit margins and shelf stability? The yellow tub in your fridge might seem innocent, familiar, trustworthy, but it represents one of the biggest dietary deceptions in British history. The replacement of real food with processed substitutes sold to the public as progress. 2. Vitalite. The dairy-free spread that's been in British shops since 1986, marketed to vegans, lactose-intolerant shoppers, and anyone convinced that plant-based automatically means healthier. The bright packaging promises a lighter, cleaner alternative to butter. Natural, plant-powered, better for you, and better for the planet. But peel back that eco-friendly branding and you'll find something far less wholesome than the marketing suggests. Vitalite is essentially a palm oil product. Not cream, not dairy, not even the rapeseed oil that dominates most spreads. It's primarily palm oil, the controversial tropical oil linked to deforestation, habitat destruction, and environmental devastation across Southeast Asia. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry experiment. Palm oil, rapeseed oil, water, salt, emulsifiers, E471, E475. Preservatives, colors including beta-carotene to create that butter-like yellow. Natural flavorings to mimic dairy richness without using any actual dairy. And here's the uncomfortable irony. Vitalite markets itself with environmental messaging. Plant-based, sustainable, kind to the planet. Yet its core ingredient, palm oil, is one of the most environmentally destructive commodities on Earth. Rainforest burned to make way for palm plantations. Orangutan habitats destroyed. Indigenous communities displaced. All so British shoppers can have cheap, spreadable oil that pretends to be butter. The company claims their palm oil is sustainably sourced. But environmental groups have repeatedly challenged these claims, pointing out that even sustainable palm oil certification schemes are deeply flawed, often allowing continued deforestation under greenwashed labels. And the health claims? Equally questionable. Yes, Vitalite contains no cholesterol because it contains no animal products, but it's still highly processed oil, emulsified with chemicals, preserved artificially, and engineered to remain stable at room temperature. None of which sounds particularly natural or healthy when you strip away the marketing. For people with genuine dairy allergies, Vitalite might be a necessary option. But for everyone else choosing it because they think it's healthier or more ethical than butter, the reality is far murkier than the packaging suggests. You're not eating something natural. You're eating palm oil that's been processed, stabilized, colored, and flavored to mimic the dairy product it's replacing. And every tub contributes to an industry that's devastating tropical ecosystems while selling you the illusion of environmental responsibility. The bright, cheerful packaging hides a darker truth. Vitalite isn't plant-powered progress. It's industrial oil wrapped in eco-friendly lies. 3. Pure. The dairy spread that sounds wholesome by name alone. Pure. The word itself evokes simplicity, cleanliness, honesty. The kind of product you trust without question. The kind of brand that seems transparent just by calling itself what every food should be. But Pure is one of the most misleading products in British supermarkets. Not because of what it contains, but because of what it convinces people it is. Pure is marketed as a dairy spread. It sits in the butter section. The packaging features creamy swirls and soft pastoral colors. And many shoppers genuinely believe they're buying a butter product. Something made primarily from dairy. Something close to traditional butter, just easier to spread. But Pure contains no cream whatsoever. Zero dairy fat. It's not butter that's been softened. It's buttermilk mixed with vegetable oils to create a dairy-flavored spread that mimics butter without actually being butter. The main ingredients? Buttermilk. Vegetable oils including rapeseed and palm. Water. That's what Pure really is. Oil and water emulsified together with a splash of buttermilk for flavor. then stabilized with emulsifiers, preserved with additives, and colored to look like something it's not. And the truly clever deception is the name. Pure doesn't claim to be butter. It doesn't explicitly lie. But it positions itself in a way that makes shoppers assume it's a dairy product when it's fundamentally an oil blend. The health messaging follows the same playbook as every other spread. Lower in saturated fat than butter. Contains omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Fortified with vitamins. All technically true. All designed to make you feel good about choosing pure over real butter. But those omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, they're from seed oils, which many nutritionists now argue create inflammatory imbalances when consumed in the massive quantities modern diets contain. The vitamins. Synthetically added, not naturally present. The lower saturated fat. Achieved by replacing dairy fat with industrial oils. Pure isn't pure. It's processed. It's engineered. It's a carefully calibrated blend of oils, water, and minimal dairy designed to taste like butter, spread like butter, and cost less than butter to manufacture. And millions of British shoppers buy it every week, assuming the name means something. Assuming pure indicates quality, simplicity, or honesty. When in reality, it's just another clever marketing term designed to obscure what you're actually eating. The word pure used to mean something. Now it's just another label slapped on industrial oil blends to make them feel trustworthy. 4. Benecol. The functional spread that promises to actively lower your cholesterol. The butter alternative that's marketed not just as safe, but as medicinal. As something that doesn't just replace butter, but actually improves your health while you eat it. Benecol contains plant stanols, compounds that supposedly block cholesterol absorption in your digestive system. The marketing is clinical, scientific, backed by studies and health claims. It's not just a spread, it's a health intervention you can buy in the dairy aisle. And it's one of the most aggressively priced products in the entire butter section. Small tubs cost significantly more than premium real butter. But the message is clear. You're not paying for food, you're paying for medicine. For active health benefits. For something that will save you from the dangers of high cholesterol. But here's what Benecol doesn't advertise quite as loudly. What those plant stanols are suspended in. What the base product actually is before the health-promoting compounds are added. Benecol is vegetable oil, rapeseed oil primarily, then water, emulsifiers, stabilisers. The same foundation as every other margarine-style spread. The plant stanols are an addition to that base, not a replacement for it. So, you're paying premium prices for rapeseed oil emulsion with added plant stanols. Processed seed oil marketed as medicine. And the cholesterol-lowering claims? They're based on consuming Benecol regularly, every day, in specific amounts. Miss a day and the effect diminishes. Stop eating it and your cholesterol returns to previous levels. It's not a cure. It's not even a treatment. It's a daily supplement disguised as butter that only works if you consume it religiously. And that raises an uncomfortable question. If you need to eat this product every day for it to work, who's really benefiting? Your health or the company's profit margins? The medical framing is clever. It transforms a purchase decision into a health decision. Makes people feel irresponsible if they choose regular butter over Benecol, positions real dairy as dangerous and processed spreads as protective. But decades of replacing butter with margarine hasn't reduced Britain's heart disease rates, hasn't made us healthier, hasn't delivered on any of the promises made when we first abandoned natural dairy fats for industrial alternatives. Benecol is the evolution of that same deception, the same seed oil spreads, now marketed with medical claims and premium pricing. The same replacement of real food with processed substitutes, just wrapped in scientific language this time. You're not buying better health, you're buying expensive rapeseed oil with added plant compounds, marketed to exploit your fears about cholesterol. Fears that were manufactured by the same industries profiting from selling you the supposed solution. 5. Utterly butterly light. The reduced fat version of a spread that was already barely butter. the light option for a product that was never heavy on actual dairy to begin with. The brand that takes the deception of butter-flavored oil, blends and makes it even worse by removing what little substance remained. Utterly Butterly built its brand on playful wordplay and butter-adjacent naming. And the light version takes that formula to its logical conclusion. Even less butter, more water, more air, more nothing. Look at what they've removed to make it light, fat. The one thing that makes butter butter. The one component that provides flavor, texture, satiety, and the fat-soluble vitamins that made dairy valuable in the first place. And what did they replace that fat with? Water, air, more emulsifiers to hold the increasingly watery mixture together, more stabilisers to prevent it from separating, more processing to make less food feel like more. Utterly Butterly light is the endpoint of the low-fat fallacy. The idea that removing fat from food makes it healthier, regardless of what you replace that fat with or how much processing is required to maintain palatability. You're buying a product that's been stripped of the one thing that made it worthwhile, then re-engineered to hide that fact. Paying for water and air held together with emulsifiers and sold as a health-conscious choice. The reduced fat doesn't make it healthier. It just makes it less of a food and more of a food-like product. Something that technically qualifies as spreadable, but provides almost nothing in terms of nutrition, satiety, or real nourishment. This is the final evolution of the spread industry, taking real butter, diluting it with oils, calling that progress. Then taking the oil blend and diluting it further with water, calling that health. Each iteration removing more substance, adding more processing, and asking you to celebrate the result as improvement. Utterly Butterly light is utterly pointless. A triumph of marketing over substance. Proof that the food industry can sell literally anything if the packaging promises health benefits and the price is right. For half a century, the British public was told that butter was dangerous, that margarine would save us, that seed oils were the future of healthy eating. We believed it. We bought it. We fed it to our children. And now, 5 decades later, we're sicker than ever. Heart disease remains our biggest killer. Obesity has reached epidemic proportions. Metabolic disorders are endemic. Every promise made by the margarine industry has failed to materialize. Every health claim has been exposed as exaggeration or outright deception. Every benefit we were supposed to gain by abandoning butter never arrived. But the profits did. The margarine and spreads industry is worth billions, built on replacing expensive dairy with cheap industrial oils, built on convincing people that processed is better than natural, built on decades of lies about saturated fat and health, and they're still selling the same message. Still marketing spreads as healthy alternatives, still positioning butter as dangerous, still hoping you'll never notice that their promises never came true. The truth is simple. Butter isn't the enemy. It never was. The real threat has always been ultra-processing, the replacement of real food with industrial substitutes, the decades of dietary advice written by industries with massive financial stakes in replacing traditional foods with their products. Real butter is cream that's been churned. That's it. Nothing else needs to be added. Nothing needs to be emulsified or stabilized or preserved. It's food that's barely been processed at all. Every spread, every margarine, every butter alternative requires industrial processing to exist. They don't occur naturally. They're products of modern food science, created to reduce costs and increase shelf life while generating maximum profit. And you deserve to know that. Deserve to understand what you're really buying when you grab that colorful tub instead of the butter block. The British public has been deceived long enough. It's time to go back to real food, real butter, real cream, real dairy from real cows. Because the fewer the ingredients, the fewer the lies. And when it comes to butter, there should only ever be one ingredient: cream.